now I'm hoping maybe we could have a little bit more of a personal conversation on this topic, and it's not easy to do, right? But it's something that we've done on the show in the past. I've talked about a friend of mine who unfortunately committed suicide with a firearm, and that's something that's deeply affected me personally over the years, and I'm wondering if you could give us maybe a little bit of your personal story of why this became an issue that you decided to be at the forefront of.
Yeah. So, I first got into the space mostly just because of the data, right? And the numbers that I saw. But, shortly after I got into the suicide prevention space, I ended up losing, there's the same mutual friend of ours. His name's Bob Owens, who was, editor of Bearing Arms.
Not that you need to lose somebody to suicide to care about this issue or anything, but I'm always interested in what sort of motivates somebody to take on something like this, because it can be difficult, right? I mean, even when you start talking about this issue publicly, if you have any kind of following, you can even get people who are then coming to you with looking for help on the topic, and that can be a very difficult thing to deal with as well. So it's interesting what drives people.
A big part of my professional background is I came from the customer support world, and a big driver of why I loved customer support is because it is all about helping people. And that's always been a key focus for me in my career, and also in my philanthropy and community services is very focused on, how do I help people either directly or to give people the confidence to, either, admit that you have a problem and you need to go seek help, and that's okay, right? That's very okay. Everybody has low points, right, in their life. And if you need to find help, help is there. And I think there's, I've thankfully only had a few, friends and acquaintances who have taken their lives, due to suicide. But there's all this collateral damage, right? That happens, right? Those of us who are, kind of quote left behind, if you will. And so I always think about, how do we prevent that, right? How do we prevent, someone from taking their lives? And oftentimes it's about providing that help, right? It's about being there, right, for your friends, for your loved ones, and having the courage to ask someone, "Hey, are you okay?" Right? Like that simple question of, "Hey, how are you doing? Like, are you doing okay?" Right? That can really be such a meaningful question that gives the other person, right, kind of either permission or like freedom to talk about whatever their problems are, and then you can provide that kind of support, right, that for the people that you love and the people that you want to have around.
Yeah, and it's one thing that strikes me about you and your work in this area is it's somewhat similar to some of the other things you've done in kind of breaking through stereotypes in the gun community or long held it seems to me that in talking about mental health and talking about suicide and talking about suicidal ideation is not something, as you mentioned earlier, that is used to be a very common thing to do, or used to be something, talking about your feelings if you're a guy and you own guns, this is not a macho thing to do, right? And so it's not an easy thing to try and change that culture that exists around this topic, right? And but it's the same thing, I think, with a lot of other things that you've done, that you've taken on with LGBTQ issues in the gun industry, or Asian American activism as well. Do you see these things as fitting together, or how do you look at this particular challenge in regards to what you've done with the rest of your career?
It's a good observation that you've made, right, with my advocacy both in the LGBT and Asian American spaces, right, and helping provide help and support there, right? And these other two demographics, right, that are historically underrepresented in the gun community, and in the LGBT space, for example, right, there are some very unique challenges that I'm gay, and so gay people face a particular type of challenge. And transgender Americans face a whole different problem when firearms for that demographic are the great equalizer, like they are for many other demographics as well. And for Asian Americans, we've been typically a very quiet demographic, especially when it comes to constitutional rights. But the pandemic, right, really changed the game, for many, many, many Asian Americans. And there are a lot more. We saw 43% year-over-year increase of first-time Asian American gun ownership, right, which is unprecedented. And so for me, now with my suicide prevention work, with that work in my portfolio, it's very much about I really like shining the light on either communities, topics, and issues that I think are important but aren't being talked about enough. So that's I think a very constant theme and space that I find myself in, is that I want to shine this light, on communities and people that historically have not gotten as much support or help as they may either they need or they want. I coming from a customer support background, I get a lot of satisfaction, right, out of making sure that people get the help that they need.